Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Econobox Garage. Thanks for joining me. In this week's episode of our Bugeye Build, I'm continuing with the sanding and filling on the main tub of the car. I'm going to let you know a couple of cost-saving tips and some of the materials that I've been using in this project so far. Thanks for joining me. I hope you enjoy this week's video. Well, you may recall in a previous video I had looked at my rear bumper brackets and I wasn't sure if either one was correct. So I did order a new pair and those arrived today. And you can see if I compare these two, the one that came off the car is definitely not the shape it should be. And the other one is fairly close. With using these replacements, I know they're both the same. That brings me to another thing that I have to sort out. And let's go over to the car. And that is, did I leave too much on the bottom here on this sill? I have reached out to one of the forums I'm on, which is Austin Healey Experience, or AHEXP. Forum. I'll put a link in the description below to that. And it looks like that dimension is supposed to be 10 3/4. Now mine, when I measured it, is actually 11 3/4 from the bottom of the valance as I put it in up to the center of this hole. So basically what that means is I have to cut an inch off the bottom here all the way across. So essentially what's happened with that lower valance being too long, at the moment this part here, this flat part, isn't sitting flat against the boot floor where it bolts in, and you can see that the bracket is actually hitting on the valance. So I will trim that down to where it needs to be and refit that. So I'm going to do that before I get to any more sanding and filling. I've cut about 3/4 of an inch off the bottom of the valance panel that I put in, and that seems to have done the trick. I've got it evened up all the way across the bottom, and even tried to tie it in nicely in the corners here and on this side too. I have a bit of work to do on this side, and now that I've got the bracket in place, it clears the bottom edge, which is what it's supposed to do. So quite happy with that. Now I can get back to sanding and filling and sanding, and then hopefully some primer. Well, it's time to get back to sanding the back of the car, and it's a reasonably flat surface, but it does have a curve in it, so the piece of plywood I was using earlier isn't going to cut it. So rather than go out and spend a ton of money on a sanding block or whatever commercially available, I just went to Home Depot and picked up a sheet of styrofoam, and that way I can cut the styrofoam to the size I want, any size I want, and there's enough flex in it that will shape to the contour of the back here. Now you can see I've already got some of it done here. Still got quite a bit of work to do. I may pick up some double-sided tape so that I can actually stick the styrofoam to the sandpaper. Now I didn't come up with this myself. I discovered it on another YouTube channel, and I'll put a link to that video in the description below. So I mentioned earlier in the video that picked up some styrofoam and using that for sanding blocks. The really nice thing about this is you can make it any size you want. You can shape it to any shape that you want. And I think if you watch the video that I link in the description below, where I discovered this little method, you'll get a really good idea of what can be done. One thing I'm doing differently from the video is I'm not using sticky back sandpaper. So for example, I'm using a half sheet of the sandpaper, but the block itself is a little bit narrower than the half sheet, so I can fold the edges over, and that gives me something to grip on. Nice things about these, they're a bit flexy, they're nice, they're comfortable to hold. I do have one sanding block that I use for smaller spaces. This one works really good in the license plate recess. One thing I have learned is just keep your sandpaper refreshed all the time. Otherwise it may appear to be good, like this is a brand new sheet, so it may appear to be in good shape, but it's not going to cut as well as it should. So to help that out, I just bought a 20-pack of sandpaper in 80 grit, which is what I'm using for the most part. I also got some 180 for a little bit later. I'll put links to at least the 80 grit in the description below. And I also must say I'm very thankful that I picked up this respirator. It's been very good. I just got to change these filter pads out. The inside ones, the main ones, work for quite a bit longer, and I do have an extra pair to fit in here. So thanks again to Bill for recommending that. So as I mentioned, I'm using a lightweight filler for these last coats, and this is the one I've used. I picked it up from a local parts store, and I'll see if I can find a link to that as well. The other thing I'm using for my mat, or for mixing, is I'm just cutting up boxes, giving them a wipe down, and that way I don't have to worry about cleaning or anything like that. It's rigid enough, like it's just corrugated cardboard box stuff. It's rigid enough to mix it on and work with it on the car. And when I'm done, it just goes in the garbage. Well, that wraps up another dusty week in the garage. Although the temperatures are getting cooler, I'm still hoping to get primer on before it gets too cold. If you'd like to contact me directly, the best way to do that is through Instagram Direct. And my Instagram tag will be up in the top corner here. I also have a link to my Instagram account in the description below. If you enjoyed the video, please share it with your friends. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget the little bell icon. Click on that and you'll get notified when the next videos come out. My name is Ian. This is the Econobox Garage. We'll see you next time.